The first thing Ada noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy kind. Like the house itself was holding its breath. She'd only stepped out for 2 days. A short trip to care for her mother after surgery. She left in love. She came back to war. First, everything looked the same. Her slippers were by the door. The kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon tea. But as she walked toward the living room, something felt off. Then she saw it. The large wedding portrait that once hung above the fireplace. The one of her and David, holding hands, eyes bright with promise, was gone. In its place was a glossy frame of David, smiling beside a woman Ada had never seen before. The woman was younger, perfect makeup. Her hand rested on his chest like she owned it. They looked like a magazine couple, posed and polished. Ada stared at the frame. David's eyes, that same look he used to give her, now pointed at someone else. She blinked. Maybe it was a mistake. A joke. Maybe he'd explain. She walked slowly through the house, room by room. But it wasn't just that one photo. Every frame had changed. Their honeymoon photo in Zanzibar? Replaced. The candid shot of them laughing in the rain? Gone. Even the tiny picture on her bedside table, the one David said he loved most, was now a snapshot of him and the other woman sipping wine in what looked like Paris. It wasn't a mistake. It was a message. And it was loud. Still, Ada didn't scream. She didn't call. She didn't even cry. She sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence wrap around her like a second skin. She thought about the nights she stayed up folding his laundry. The early mornings she made his favorite pap and eggs before he left for work. The years she gave. The dreams she paused. And now this. She glanced at one of the newer photos. The woman's lipstick matched her dress. The image was recent. But Ada didn't ask questions. She just walked to the drawer, pulled out her journal, and flipped to the back where she kept receipts. Literal and emotional. She turned a fresh page, grabbed a pen, and wrote just one word. Collect. Then she opened her phone, found the folder labeled Backup, and began the quiet, deliberate work of unraveling secrets. If David wanted to make memories without her, then he should have been more careful where he made them. And who was watching? Because Ada wasn't the kind of woman who shouted. She was the kind that documented. She zoomed in on a blurry cafe receipt tucked beside a wine glass in one of the photos and smiled. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a breadcrumb. And Ada was ready to follow it to the end. Ada didn't sleep that night. She didn't toss or turn either. She was too busy building. By dawn, she had a folder on her laptop titled Exhibit A. And inside it, a growing collection of screenshots, dates, locations, captions, and timestamps. David and his mistress weren't just careless. They were loud, flashy, public. On social media, they posted just enough to seem mysterious, but not enough to be invisible to someone who knew where to look. Ada zoomed in on a reflection in a wine glass, caught the name of the restaurant on the wall behind them. She paused the video clip David had once reposted, him and his colleague giving a talk at a tech seminar. In the background, the woman's hand lingered a little too long on his back. Ada rewound, froze the frame, screenshot. She opened a new slide in the digital album. Slide 12. The first touch. Below the image, she typed, Lagos Digital Summit, April 17th. The day after our anniversary. Ada didn't just want revenge. She wanted documentation. David had replaced their wedding photos like she was a phase, a page easily torn from his story. But what he didn't know was that Ada remembered everything. Every glance, every excuse, every late-night team dinner he brushed off when she asked why he came home smelling of strange perfume. She didn't yell when she found lipstick on his shirt 3 months ago. She quietly matched the shade. Scarlet 520. A limited edition mat only sold at one boutique on Victoria Island. Now, she had the receipt. Slide 22. Scarlet evidence. Ada wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger was loud. Anger faded. This was clarity. The more she uncovered, the more her silence took on weight. Power. Purpose. She began piecing together a timeline. Not of their marriage, but of its decay. of his betrayal. From the first deleted message she'd once ignored to the weekend conference he swore was men only. He should have been more careful. She smiled without joy, because she remembered something else. David loved to take pictures. Always said, if there's no photo, it didn't happen. Now, she was giving him everything he ever wanted. An album full of memories. Only this time, it wouldn't be framed on their wall. Ada stared at the growing collection of evidence, then glanced at the calendar. Christmas was 3 weeks away, and this year, she finally knew what to get him. Ada had never been a vengeful woman. She believed in patience, grace, and second chances. But she also believed in mirrors, the kind that didn't lie. And this time, she was done being the woman who dimmed her light so someone else could shine. By the second week of December, her secret album had grown into a 62-page chronicle. Each page was sharper than the last. Page 5 showed David kissing the woman in an elevator lobby. The timestamp read 6:47 p.m., same night he had claimed to be stuck in traffic. Page 19 was a hotel reservation, booked with their joint card, no less, complete with a breakfast for two receipt signed with his casual scrawl. Page 31, a photo of David standing behind the Mistress at a beach resort Ada had once begged to visit, but he insisted was too expensive. She added it under the heading, too expensive for a wife, affordable for a mistress. Each slide had a title. Each caption had a date. It was a digital wrecking ball, subtle, elegant, but fatal. And then, she printed it. A hardcover album. Matte finish. Cream-colored cover. Gold-embossed spine. She chose a title that felt like poetry and punishment all at once. For the Man Who Loved Memories. Wrapped it carefully in deep red paper, topped with a silver bow, and slid a handwritten note inside the first page. Since you love pictures so much, I gathered every moment you forgot to tell me about. Merry Christmas, David. With all my love, Ada. She placed it under the tree 3 nights before Christmas. David never noticed. Too busy texting. Too busy smiling at his phone in that secretive way he thought she didn't catch anymore. He had no idea the countdown had already started. She didn't check his phone. She didn't need to. She had the only thing more powerful than a password. She had the truth. The day before Christmas Eve, Ada sat alone by the fireplace, the one that used to hold their wedding photo. She held a cup of tea, calm and content. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was a release. He'd made her invisible in her own home. Now she would become unforgettable in his. That night, Ada opened her laptop one last time, logged into her anonymous account, and uploaded the entire photo album to a quiet corner of the internet, with one line in the caption. For any woman who's ever been replaced like she was never there. Read this before you disappear. Christmas morning arrived with quiet beauty. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting soft gold across the floor. The tree lights blinked lazily. The scent of cinnamon and cloves filled the room. Ada had still baked, still made everything look perfect, because that's who she was. David came down the stairs whistling, phone in hand, distracted. Morning, he said casually, barely glancing at her. Merry Christmas, Ada replied, setting down a tray of food, the same jollof rice and grilled chicken he once said no one made better. He sat, complimented the food with a grunt, then finally noticed the small red box beneath the tree. What's that? He asked, wiping his hands. A gift, Ada said. For you. David grinned. I thought we said no gifts this year? She smiled softly. We did, but I changed my mind. He grabbed the box, peeled off the ribbon with mild curiosity, and lifted the lid. Inside was the pristine photo album. He flipped open the first page, smiling at first, until he read the handwritten note. Since you love pictures so much, I gathered every moment you forgot to tell me about. Merry Christmas, David. With all my love, Ada. His smile froze. He turned the next page, then the next, then the next, and with each photo the color drained from his face. His mistress, his lies, his betrayals, documented, dated, and captioned. Hotel receipts, flirty texts, geotagged photos. restaurant bills. A selfie taken on Ada's birthday, while he told her he was working late. His hands began to tremble. He shut the album quickly, like it was burning him. Ada, I can explain. She stood, calm, collected. No need. He opened his mouth, but no words came, because nothing he could say would matter more than what she'd already said. Silently, through facts. Ada walked to the window and stared outside as children in the neighborhood ran past with new toys, their laughter ringing in the air. David stood behind her, still holding the album, panicked. Did you show this to anyone? She turned slowly. No, she said, then added, not yet. But while David scrambled to contain the damage in his home, the internet had already found the album. And what started as a quiet post on a hidden account had begun to go viral. By noon, her phone buzzed nonstop. Ada had posted the album under an anonymous name, The Replaced Wife, without any expectation. No hashtags, no attention-seeking, just a release into the void. But the internet had other plans. By Christmas afternoon, women from across the country were sharing the link. This hit too close to home. Poetic justice. I hope she served it cold, and with a bow. Influencers reposted it. Bloggers broke it down slide by slide. The album had captions, details, and subtle emotion without malice. It wasn't just a scandal, it was a story, and people devoured it. By evening, the hashtag the album was trending. Ada said nothing. She didn't need to. The world was already speaking for her. David, on the other hand, was unraveling. His phone rang endlessly. Clients, friends, colleagues, even his own mother had seen it. Everyone recognized the smiling face in the photos. Some had met the mistress at parties. Many had just assumed the wife must be too busy to attend. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore, it was public. He stormed into the living room, red-faced. You humiliated me. Ada looked up from her tea. No, she said gently. You did that yourself. I just put it in an album. You planned this, he growled. She shrugged. You planned this. I documented it. He opened his mouth to yell again, but paused when he saw her face. No fury, no chaos, just calm, like a woman who'd finally let go of carrying someone else's shame. That silence? It was louder than any scream he'd expected. Later that night, Ada's anonymous inbox was filled with messages. Some from strangers thanking her. Some from women asking, how did you stay so composed? And one from a popular women's magazine. We would love to feature your story, even anonymously. You've struck a chord across the continent, and given so many women their voice back. Ada didn't smile. Not yet, because it wasn't over. She clicked, reply. The next morning, headlines broke across major platforms. The silent album that brought a tech mogul to his knees and gave millions of women their power back. And David? He was about to learn that when you erase someone, you never expect them to become unforgettable. David stayed indoors for weeks. His social media pages vanished one by one. His investors pulled out, citing personal controversies. The speaking engagements dried up. The tech forums stopped quoting him. His carefully crafted brand, successful, trustworthy, aspirational, crumbled under the weight of quiet truth. Not once did Ada raise her voice, but the world had heard her story anyway. The mistress. She went silent too. First her Instagram turned private. Then her boutique shops page disappeared. Her last post, an aesthetic flat lay of a wine glass and hotel slippers, was flooded with comments like, hope the slippers were worth it. When the wife becomes the narrator, the side character always loses. Ada watched it all unfold, not from a place of vengeance, but peace. She wasn't celebrating their ruin. She wasn't counting retweets or likes. She didn't need their downfall to rise, because she already had. The magazine article dropped 1 week later. No names, no locations, just the album, and the woman behind it. A faceless profile of strength, quiet power, and the grace to walk away without burning down the house. The quote that went viral read, I didn't expose him to hurt him. I exposed the truth to stop hurting myself. Ada received invitations to speak at women's events. Podcasts requested interviews. Nonprofits asked her to join campaigns on emotional resilience and digital healing. One organization launched a campaign called #SilentStorm, using her story to raise awareness on emotional invisibility in marriages. But through it all, she stayed grounded. She moved out of the house David once mocked her in, bought a quiet apartment near the ocean. She repainted the walls herself, filled the space with art and books, and for the first time in years, framed photos that made her smile. Not of a man, not of a wedding, but of herself, laughing with friends, sketching alone on her balcony, cooking with her nieces, living. Christmas came again a year later. She baked the same cinnamon cake, played the same music. Only this time the house wasn't heavy. The silence was warm. A knock came at the door, her assistant, dropping off a mock-up for her upcoming book, a memoir titled, She Was Never Just a Wife. Inside it was a reprint of the album, not to shame, but to remind that silence is not weakness, that erasure doesn't last forever, that sometimes the softest woman leaves the loudest legacy. As Ada sat by the window, tea in hand, the city lights twinkling below, she whispered to herself, "They replaced my pictures, but I replaced their power with mine." And this time, the frame stayed full. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Thank you. We hope to see you in our next video.